And we're seeing a huge breakdown in the supply chain. And this is being spurred on by collapses of all sorts of businesses. Here in Australia, we've got the Mosaic chain saying that they're going to be very likely closing 500 stores within the next 2 weeks. The Mosaic chain is, these are specialty shops like Rivers and Millers, like fashion shops and things. I'm not particularly worried about fashion shops closing down, but it's thousands of workers being put out of work, and this contributes to the whole knock-on effect with everything else. You know, they want to destroy the middle class, get everybody, you know, into a welfare state dependent upon the state for support. And you might wonder, well, why would they do this? Why wouldn't the government want to be collecting taxes from people? You know, the money's a fiction. The money's just there to keep us in a state of scarcity. That's all money is. They don't care about money. Money isn't wealth. Wealth is control of land, resources, people. And that's what they're doing through this. They want everybody into the welfare state, so everybody's dependent upon handouts from the state in order to survive. That way, when they bring out their vaccine, everyone has to accept their vaccine. Otherwise, you'll be penalised by the state. You won't get your benefits. The no jab, no pay, all this sort of stuff they've been pushing for so long. Because that's what it's about, folks. It's about the vaccines. This whole thing is about the vaccines. It's been about the vaccines right from the start. They've already got the vaccines developed, whatever they're doing with this. It's already developed. I mean, you can't develop vaccines this quick, and none of them work anyway. You know, all of these vaccines appear to have just been designed to attack our immune system. All the viruses, all the things that they identify as viruses, things that they claim come from external sources, and you need to eliminate them from your body with vaccines. These are all part of our DNA. And what they've trained people's immune system to do is to attack itself. And apparently what they're doing with this next vaccine, as I suggested again weeks ago, the ones that are really going to get sick from this are the ones who've had all the previous flu shots and all of these vaccinations they've had all through their lives. Once they get this next vaccine, let's say everything's going to kick into effect. You know, as I've said, you know, the chemtrails, everything they're doing, all the spraying, the amount of aluminium in the air, the amount of aluminium in the vaccines, the toxins in the food, all of this combines to create a certain genetic environment. And once they put a certain agent in there, it's going to react according to the genetic environment that it finds itself in. And you'll find that the elites, if that's what we want to call them, we really shouldn't call them that because they're not elite, but you're going to find these people haven't had the vaccines that most of the general population have had, so they've got different genetic environments. So that's where we're going to see things really starting to kick in. But the closing down of all of these shops, this is very significant, folks, because it's just going to put a further strain on the supply chain. And it's been major, like Qantas Airlines, Australia's main carrier, has registered something like a 94 point something million loss this year. Phenomenal, the biggest loss they've had in 100 years of operation. So, and that's just one airline, you know, so it's all having this huge knock-on effect, folks. And that's what it's designed to do. And they're saying that, you know, all of these businesses, I mean, even with the Mosaic chain closing down, they're saying, you know, they've had to do it. You know, it's been a devastating year for them because they had the terrible things that happened with the fires, which was terrible for them. And then they had to close for 10 weeks due to the coronavirus pandemic. But that's the thing, folks. You've got to start looking at it that way, because they didn't close due to the coronavirus pandemic. They closed down due to the actions that were taken by government. And this whole thing is, as I said, a provable and quantifiable hoax. You know, when you look at the research that's come out regarding chromosome 8, what the vaccine's really going to be doing, what the PCR tests are really looking for, and these PCR tests just don't work at all. That's the thing. I mean, you can't test for virus using a PCR test. You cannot test for infection using a PCR test. That's what a lot of people just don't take into account. And it would appear that taking the test is one of the worst things you could possibly do, because when you really start to understand that what they're looking for is your own genetic material, your own DNA, you'll find that anybody will test positive depending on the level of amplification they use in the test. Anybody could test positive in this test. Anybody they want to test positive could test positive in this test. And I've been receiving reports from people as well, like very concerned emails from people saying, listen, Max, I've just received a letter from my school, and the school is saying that if my child has the sniffles or any signs of seasonal flu, which all kids get this time of year as the seasons change, our body's going to detox. If my child has any signs of this, then my child must stay home for 13 days and must be tested before it comes back to school. And you'll find that if you don't do this and you can't provide them with any proof that the child has been tested and has come back negative, then they may even take it upon themselves to test your child at school. And if they find a positive test, your child will be taken from you, you'll be isolated, your child will be isolated. I mean, this is what they're doing. I mean, I said weeks ago, they're coming for your children. And they're putting all of this stuff in place in order to get to children. You know, in this sort of a situation, folks, I'd be asking them, you know, what are you actually doing with the PCR test? Because according to the inventor of the test, you cannot use these tests to test for infection. Why are there 1,000 doctors in Germany saying this is a quantifiable hoax? Why has the government said that they do not have any live samples of COVID-19? There's never been a Koch's postulate done on it. So what are you actually testing for? What are you doing with these tests? Because these tests simply manufacture a genetic environment. If they can't answer these questions to your satisfaction, say, well, I'm not sending my child back to school then. You know, we've got to the point, folks, where, you know, as I said weeks ago, the sheeple are going to lead us into this. The sleeping masses are going to lead us into this if we don't get them to wake up. And when that happens, those who are awake will have a choice. You have a choice as to whether you want to be part of that system, whether you're prepared to sell your soul, to seek safety in whatever it is they're offering and calling safety, or whether you're prepared to stand your ground and step outside the system. Personally, I'm prepared to stand my ground and step outside the system. Admittedly, I don't have children to worry about. I have a son, but he's grown up now and he can make his own choices. What he does with his life is his decision. But it's getting to the point where if you want to be part of that system, you're going to have these tests. You're going to have to be vaccinated. You're going to have to do all these things, or you're going to have to find a way of maintaining your composure and surviving for the next 2 to 5 years just by your wits on the outside of the system and wait for the cards to fall where they may. Now, a lot of people aren't going to survive what's coming. They're just not. When it gets to that point, I'll simply be stepping outside the system. You know, I've been stocking up on supplies, things that will last me a long time. I've got, you know, a couple of years worth of food that I can, you know, if it gets to the point that I can't go and shop and I can't do these things because I haven't had a vaccination, well, I've got enough to get by for at least a couple of years. You know, I've been spending months doing this in preparation because as soon as they shut down the borders, I could see this coming, and I've been suggesting other people do that as well. But you're really getting to that point where you've got to make that decision. You know, either we see a huge pushback from the people and a huge outcry and people just break this blockade and break this lockdown and go back to their lives, or it's going to lead us where it's going to lead us. But the thing is, even if people do go back to their lives now, even if we were to pull the whole thing down, arrest the government, put it all back the way it was, still the supply chain has already been broken. That's the problem. The supply chain has already been broken. So no matter what we do, it can't go back to the way it was. You know, we're facing hard times. We're in a very, very dangerous and difficult time ahead, and the ride has just begun. I'm expecting something major in the next month. September, October, I'm expecting to see a big event. I don't quite know what it will be yet, but I think there's too much pushback for the politicians, and I think when we see this much pushback, generally they do something to shift everybody else's attention, shift everybody else's focus, and just disrupt things a little bit more to make it a little bit more difficult for us to get back on top of things. So hold on to your hats for the next month, folks, for the next 6 weeks, next 2 months, September, and then the October surprise. It's going to be an interesting time. But, you know, I don't know what message to offer those people who are getting these notes from school saying, you know, we want your child tested if it shows any signs of sniffles. All I can say is take your child out of that school, form your own schools, form common law courts even, and go back to your own schools. I had a great talk with Mike Holt from the Little Aussie Battler channel the other day. Apparently Kevin Arnett and a couple of places in Canada have set up common law zones. Perhaps we could do this here in Australia as well. I had a meeting with a barrister yesterday, and we're discussing ways of moving this forward as well. I'm also going to look into Ricardo Bossi's political party. Not that I have any faith in politics, but I think we need to approach this from every angle. So I'm going to have a look and see whether he's on the level with what he's doing as well, and whether that's worth supporting. I mean, there is a huge pushback from people. The real problem we face is the media not reporting that. The media just not reporting the truth to anybody. The media is so reprehensible, folks. They're so responsible for what's going on. I mean, they won't present any of the opposing debate at all. They don't even acknowledge that there is any opposing debate. They just say the science is settled when it isn't. It isn't. There's hundreds of doctors, thousands, even 1,000 doctors in Germany alone saying that this is a scam. So, you know, the media is the real problem. But don't lose faith, folks. I think we're in a pretty amazing time, really. There's a lot of good things happening. And, you know, we expected this, and in many ways we need it. We need this to happen. We need it to come to people's backyards and be right in their faces before they're going to see the truth. So there's always a silver lining in everything, folks. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Just a short report today. And as I said, I'm sorry about that alleged 1956 film that I included. And please do disregard that information regarding Fauci and Bill Gates and the IG Farben connection. That was disinformation that was spread. Suffice to say, I'm going to vet things for myself from now on, so that's the way it goes. But anyway, we all make mistakes, folks. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with this video now from this Italian doctor, and have a listen to what he says. And I suggest that you really ponder what he says in this video and share it with your friends. I think it's important for people to at least look at this perspective and at least be warned of what they're facing. If they choose not to act, well, that's their choice, but at least, you know, you warned them. At least we've all been trying to warn them. So, but like I said, you know, I've said many times, it's not your responsibility to wake everybody up. You're not responsible for everybody's salvation. That's something they have to take care of themselves. But anyway, folks, I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. And for those people waiting for t-shirts, the orders have come in today, and I will be getting the rest of the t-shirts mailed out to everybody this Friday. So you can expect them to start arriving next week and the week after, perhaps, if you're overseas. But they're all going to be mailed out this week, folks. So thank you for your patience in that. And thank you to all the emails that people send me. I've got about 206 emails to get through, and then I should be ready for some more emails. So thank you for backing off on the emails as well. And thank you to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody who's speaking out and who's pushing the word, who's sharing videos, and who's working to make a difference. Thank you to everybody who's awoken to the fact that this is a scam. And it is, folks. It's a quantifiable hoax. As I've said many times, it is so obviously a hoax that you can't even call it a pandemic anymore. It's now become an IQ test. Anyway, folks, I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care. Until then, in Lakesh. Where you going, Billy?